I'm not sure how to start this, but here goes nothing. My name is Jake, and I've been married to Sarah for 5 years. We had what most people would call a normal relationship, filled with the expected ups and downs. At least, that's what I thought. Lately, things have changed. The past few months, I noticed Sarah pulling away from me in ways that felt subtle yet significant, like when she stopped taking photos with me. She used to love capturing moments of our life together, but now, it seemed like the camera was always in her hands, yet I was rarely in the frame. At first, I chalked it up to a phase. Maybe she was getting tired of the same old poses and wanted to focus on other subjects. I tried to be supportive, encouraging her to find new creative outlets. Still, a knot began to form in my stomach as I noticed something odd. She started dressing differently when she went out, opting for outfits that seemed more fitting for a night out on the town than a casual dinner with me. I would ask, and she'd brush my concerns aside, saying I was imagining things. It's called evolving, Jake, she'd say with that sly smile that used to make my heart race. But the more I pushed, the more she pushed back. I tried to talk to her about it, but she would always deflect or turn it into an argument about my insecurities. The tension between us grew, and soon, we were barely speaking without it turning into a fight. I felt like a stranger in my own home. One day, I decided to grab lunch at the cafe we frequented. I walked in, and I swear, the moment I saw her, my heart sank. Sarah was sitting at a table with some guy. Not just any guy, but a tall, handsome dude with a charming smile. They were laughing, leaning in close, and sharing what looked like a very intimate moment. I wanted to scream. I stood frozen, watching, my heart racing as I fought the urge to confront them right then and there. It felt like my entire world was crumbling in front of me. I made a quick exit, feeling sick to my stomach. The vivid image of her flirting with someone else bled into my mind, and I couldn't shake off. I went home, pacing around the rooms we had built together, each corner reminding me of happier times. I could feel anger boiling inside me, but there was also an overwhelming sadness, a sense of betrayal that I had never felt before. I waited for Sarah to come home. Each tick of the clock felt like a countdown to the inevitable confrontation. When she finally walked through the door, my heart raced again, but this time with determination. I couldn't let this betrayal slide. I had to know the truth. "Sarah, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady, but the anger was bubbling just beneath the surface. She shot me a confused look, and I could see the gears turning in her head. For a brief moment, I wondered if she would try to play innocent, but I decided to lay it all on the table. "I saw you today," I said, trying to keep my tone level, though I could feel my hands shaking. Her expression changed in an instant, and I could see the panic flash in her eyes. "What are you talking about?" she asked, feigning ignorance, but I wasn't buying. Don't play games with me, Sarah. You were at the cafe with that guy. I saw you. What's going on?" I demanded, my voice rising as the adrenaline kicked in. She tried to laugh it off, saying he was just an old friend from work. But I could see the cracks in her facade. I pressed on, asking how long this had been going on. Her excuses folded and crumbled, and I watched her eyes darting around, searching for an escape from the conversation she didn't want to have. I felt rage and sadness colliding within me as her excuses turned into lies. "You're overreacting," she said, rolling her eyes. "You know how it is, we were just having a bit of fun." "Fun?" I shouted. "Sarah, that's not fun, that's cheating." She went silent for a moment, but not before I caught a glimpse of her true reaction, a hint of guilt mixed with defiance. The confrontation spiraled into a messy exchange, filled with half-truths and bitterness. It became clear to me that she had no intention of coming clean. Instead, she twisted the narrative, making me feel like I was the one in the wrong for questioning her loyalty. As I stood there, hearing her empty claims and watching her defensive posturing, I felt a wave of emotions wash over me. It hurt to think about how naive I had been to ignore the signs. My heart ached with betrayal, but I knew I had to make a decision. I couldn't just let this slide. There had to be a plan, something that would show her I wouldn't be a victim of her lies. I spent that night in turmoil, weighing my options. I could either fight for my marriage or I could fight for my dignity. I had to make a choice that would shape my future, and right then, all I could think about was revenge. A part of me felt sick to my stomach at the thought, but another part was ready to unleash the storm I had been holding back. I knew I had to act fast. I had to find a way to turn the tables. But how? That's where I needed to start. The idea of revenge began brewing in my mind, and I pushed myself to think of how I could get back at her for the betrayal I never saw coming. The thought excited me and scared me at the same time, to be continued. After that explosive confrontation, I felt a mix of anger and determination surging through me. I couldn't just sit back and let Sarah think she could treat me like this without consequences. I had been painting a picture of our life together, one that I thought reflected happiness and love, but she had decided to step outside that frame and ruin it all. I needed a plan, a way to hit back. I started by gathering evidence. I knew I had to be smart about this. I couldn't just confront her again without a clear picture of what I was dealing with. I began to pay closer attention to her habits. I noticed when she would leave for errands and how often she was on her phone, texting away. It felt like I was in the middle of a detective novel, piecing together clues about the affair. Over the next few weeks, I watched her closely. I made a point to stay out of her way whenever she was getting ready to go out, keeping my presence minimal so that she wouldn't suspect anything. I even started documenting her comings and goings, writing down times, dates, and conversations that hinted at her infidelity. It was exhausting, but I was fueled by a sense of purpose. I wanted to know everything to expose her deception. One night, while she was out, I noticed she had left her phone on the kitchen counter. My heart raced as I picked it up and stared at the screen. I weighed the moral implications of what I was about to do, but I was too far gone to care. I opened her messages, and there it was, proof of the affair. Texts that were flirty and intimate, complete with heart emojis and plans to meet up again. My stomach turned as I read through the back and forth exchanges with this guy, whose name I discovered was Adam. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The casual way they talked about their meetups made me feel sick. She had been lying through her teeth to me while playing house with someone else. Each word I read felt like a stab to my heart, and I felt the anger boiling over. But I also felt something else, a sense of relief, like I was finally holding the keys to my own freedom. If she thought she could get away with this, she had another thing coming. The next day, as she got ready to leave for a supposed girls' night out, I knew it was time to set my plan in motion. I confronted her again, but this time I was calm and collected. I had the evidence now, and I wasn't going to let her wriggle out of this so easily. "Sarah, we need to talk about Adam," I said, my voice firm. She froze, her hands clenching around her purse. "What about him?" she asked, trying to play it cool, but I saw the panic in her eyes. I pulled out my phone and showed her the messages. I watched as her face drained of color. "Tell me, Sarah, is this how you've been spending your time?" I demanded, feeling a mix of satisfaction and anger as I confronted her with the truth. "What? Where did you get that?" she stammered, scrambling for words. For a moment I felt triumphant, like I had won a battle. "Does it matter? You've been caught and—" "There's no denying it now," I shot back, the anger in my voice rising. She started with her usual excuses, claiming it was just a phase and that she didn't really mean anything by it. "Jake, you don't understand. I was feeling so neglected, and Adam was just someone to talk to," she said. The audacity of her words only fueled my rage. "Neglected? Is that your excuse for sleeping with someone else?" I yelled, incredulous. "You could have talked to me. You could have been honest." Her facade began to crumble, and for a brief moment I saw genuine fear in her eyes. But then she switched tactics, trying to play the victim. "You never pay attention to me anymore. You're always working, and I just wanted someone to talk to." Her voice rose, and I could see her turning the tables, attempting to make me feel guilty for her betrayal. It was infuriating. I was done with her lies and manipulations. I knew I had to stick to my plan. I decided to take the next step, expose her to Adam in a way that would make her feel the weight of her choices. I wanted her to see the consequences of her actions, so I crafted a message. "Hey Adam, I think it's time we had a chat. You and I need to discuss your relationship with Sarah." I sent it off and waited, my heart pounding as I did. I didn't care about the fallout anymore. I wanted her to feel threatened, to know that I wasn't going to just roll over and let her stomp all over my heart. As I sat there waiting for his response, A wave of calm washed over me. I was taking control of my life again, and it felt empowering. I was no longer the victim, I was the one holding the cards. Meanwhile, Sarah had no idea what was coming. I could see it in her eyes as she prepared for another night out, completely oblivious to the storm I was brewing. Little did she know, the truth was about to come crashing down on her, and I couldn't wait to watch it all unfold. To be continued. The hours dragged on as I waited for a response from Adam. I found myself pacing the living room, feeling a mix of anticipation and anxiety. What would happen when he read my message? Would he confront her? Would she deny everything? I felt like I was at the edge of a precipice, and I had no idea how deep the fall would be. Finally, about an hour later, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Adam. "Who the hell are you?" he wrote. My heart raced as I quickly typed back, "I'm Sarah's husband. We need to talk about your relationship with her." There was a pause, and then another message came through. "What do you mean?" "He's not married," he replied. I couldn't believe it. I had to remind myself how delusional she had become. I quickly shot back, "Oh, she is. And I have proof of your little affair." The weight of my words hung in the air, but I felt a sense of power surging inside me. As I waited for his response, I could only imagine the chaos that was about to rain down on Sarah's world. I knew I couldn't let this moment pass without making my point clear. "Meet me at the cafe in an hour," I typed. "I'll bring the proof." Adam responded almost immediately. "Fine, I'll be there." I spent the next few moments mentally preparing myself for what was about to unfold. I couldn't just sit back and let Sarah continue to weave her web of lies. She had chosen to cheat, and now it was time for her to face the consequences. I felt a mixture of dread and excitement as I thought about what would happen when Adam found out the truth. When the hour finally passed, I arrived at the cafe, my heart racing as I entered. I spotted Adam sitting at a corner table, looking just as handsome and charming as Sarah had described him. I felt a surge of anger at the sight of him. How could he have been so oblivious to the damage he was causing? As I approached, I tried to keep my composure, but inside I was a whirlwind of emotions. "You're Adam, right?" I said, trying to sound casual despite the tension in the air. "Yeah, and you're Jake," he replied, his tone more defensive than I expected. "What's this about you being married to her?" I slid my phone across the table, showing him the screenshots of their messages. "This is what it's about. I don't know how long you've been seeing her, but she's been lying to both of us." His eyes widened as he scrolled through the messages, and I could see the realization dawning on him. "What the hell? She told me she was single," he said, shaking his head in disbelief. I could feel a wave of satisfaction washing over me, but I knew better than to revel in it too much. I needed to keep my focus on Sarah. "She's been cheating on me, Adam. I confronted her last night, and she tried to gaslight me into believing I was the crazy one. I just wanted you to know the truth." He looked up at me, anger bubbling below the surface. "I can't believe this. I thought she was different." His voice was tinged with frustration, and I felt a mix of sympathy and anger. "You think you know someone, right?" I replied. "But she's been playing us both." The conversation shifted from anger to disbelief as we delved deeper into Sarah's deceit. We shared stories, comparing notes about her behaviors and lies. It was eerie how similar our experiences had been, and I could see the wheels turning in Adam's mind. He was grappling with his own betrayal. The realization that he had been part of this twisted triangle was taking its toll. "Look, I'm sorry this is happening to you, man," he said, finally looking at me with sincerity. "I didn't know she was married. I thought we were just having fun. But now," he trailed off, shaking his head. I took a deep breath, feeling the adrenaline still pulsing through my veins. "I'm not here to blame you, you didn't know, but you need to confront her. She can't keep lying to both of us." He nodded, determination settling in his features. "I'll talk to her. She needs to face the consequences." We exchanged numbers, and I knew that Adam would be reaching out to Sarah soon. The thought of their confrontation brought a sense of satisfaction. Sarah had hurt me, but now she would have to deal with the fallout of her actions, and I would be watching from the sidelines. I felt like I was finally taking control of a situation that had spiraled out of my hands. As I left the cafe, I felt a mix of emotions swirling inside me. Part of me was relieved, but another part felt hollow. I wanted to believe that confronting her wouldn't just be a moment of revenge, but a step toward my healing. I couldn't ignore the pain she had caused, and now I had to think about my own next steps. When I got home, Sarah was waiting for me, looking fresh and radiant, as if nothing had happened. She asked how my day went, and I forced a smile, trying to hide the storm brewing within me. I felt like I was living a double life, pretending everything was fine while I was on the brink of exposing everything. "Just the usual. How was your night out?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. "Oh, it was great. Just catching up with the girls," she replied, completely unaware of the bomb about to drop on her. "Sounds fun," I said, forcing a chuckle. Inside, I was bracing myself for the inevitable confrontation that would come when Adam finally reached out to her. I knew it was a matter of time before the truth unraveled, and the thought filled me with both dread and excitement. To be continued. The tension in our house grew thicker by the hour as I waited for the inevitable fallout. I had no idea how long I could keep up the charade of a normal life with Sarah. She went about her usual routine, blissfully unaware that I was just waiting for the moment when everything would come crashing down. It felt surreal, like I was living in an alternate reality where I was both a husband and a secret agent, biding my time until I could strike. That weekend, Adam texted me to let me know he had confronted Sarah. "I told her I know everything," he wrote. "She played it off like it was no big deal, but I could see the panic in her eyes. She's good at lying, though." My heart raced as I read his message. Part of me was filled with excitement. This was the moment I had been waiting for. But another part of me felt a pang of sadness. This confrontation would change everything. We were both losing a part of ourselves. Later that evening, as I sat on the couch, I heard Sarah in the kitchen humming a tune. She seemed so carefree, so unaware of the chaos brewing just beneath the surface. I clenched my fists, trying to keep my emotions in check. How could she be so oblivious? Did she really think she could keep lying to me while everything was falling apart? Just then my phone buzzed again. It was Adam. "Hey, I need to talk to you. Can you meet me at the cafe?" "Sure," I replied, feeling a mix of anticipation and dread. I grabbed my jacket and headed out the door. When I arrived at the cafe, Adam was already there, looking more serious than I had ever seen him. "I talked to her," he said, lowering his voice as if afraid someone might overhear. "She denied everything and said I was crazy for even thinking she would cheat." I felt a mix of anger and disbelief. "Of course she would say that. She's a master at manipulation," I replied, shaking my head. "What else did she say?" "She claimed you two were having problems and that you weren't giving her attention." He replied, his brow furrowing. "It's the classic blame game. She wants to paint herself as the victim, but I could see right through it." I took a deep breath, the memories of our conversations flooding back. She had always been good at twisting the narrative, flipping the script to make it seem like I was the problem. "She's been gaslighting me for months," I said, frustration creeping into my voice. "I thought I was going crazy, but now I see it clearly. She's been lying to both of us." Adam nodded. "I know, I feel like an idiot for believing her, but I need to know what to do next. I can't just walk away, not after everything." We spent the next hour discussing our options. Adam was torn between wanting to continue seeing her and recognizing that she had deceived him. "I really thought she was different," he said, frustration creeping into his tone. "But how can I trust her again?" "Honestly, I don't think you can," I replied, the weight of my own betrayal still heavy on my shoulders. "She's shown us her true colors. It's not just about us anymore. It's about what we allow her to get away with." As we talked, I began to feel a sense of camaraderie with Adam. We were both victims of Sarah's deceit, both trying to navigate this tangled web she had spun around us. We made plans to confront her together, to force her to face the reality of her actions. It was time for her to understand that there were consequences to her choices. When I returned home that night, Sarah was already in bed, scrolling through her phone. I felt a wave of anger wash over me as I watched her, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just outside our front door. I climbed into bed beside her, trying to keep my expression neutral. "Hey, how was your night?" she asked, her voice light and carefree. "Just hanging out with a friend," I replied, feeling a knot forming in my stomach. Her eyes flicked to me, and for a moment I thought I saw a flash of suspicion. "What friend?" she asked, arching an eyebrow. "Oh, just someone from work," I said, trying to keep my tone casual. You wouldn't know him. Right, she replied, her tone laced with skepticism. I could tell she was fishing, trying to gauge how much I really knew. I wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it all, but I held it in. Did you have fun with the girls? I asked, shifting the focus to her. Yeah, it was nice to catch up, she said, the smile fading slightly. We talked about a lot of things, mostly work and life. I nodded, trying to look interested, but inside I was seething. I wanted to shout that it wasn't just a casual night out. It was a night filled with lies and deceit. But I held my tongue, knowing that soon the truth would come crashing down and I wouldn't have to pretend any longer. The next day, Adam and I met up again to finalize our plan. We decided to confront Sarah together that evening. Adam would come over and we would present her with the evidence of her lies. I could feel the tension building in my chest, the anticipation of finally forcing her to confront her actions. As the sun began to set, I felt a surge of adrenaline course through me. Tonight would be the night when everything changed. I would no longer be powerless, I would reclaim my dignity. When Adam arrived, we exchanged determined glances. It was time. As we walked into the living room where Sarah was, I felt the weight of the moment pressing down on me. I knew this confrontation would change everything, but I was ready to face the truth, no matter how painful it might be. Sarah, we need to talk, I said, trying to keep my composure. She looked up from her phone, her expression shifting from casual to concerned. About what? She asked, narrowing her eyes as she sensed the tension in the room. It was time to reveal the truth. I took a deep breath and prepared myself for the storm that was about to unfold, to be continued. Sarah, we know about Adam, I said, my voice steady but filled with emotion. I watched her face transform from curiosity to shock, her eyes widening as the truth began to sink in. We know you've been cheating on me, and I can't let this go any longer. Her reaction was immediate. She shot up from the couch, her demeanor shifting into a defensive stance. What are you talking about? She demanded, her voice rising. You're being ridiculous. I don't know what you think you know, but you're wrong. Am I? Adam interjected, stepping forward with a fierce look in his eyes. I have the messages, Sarah. I saw you at the cafe. You can't deny it anymore. Her face paled as she glanced between us, realization dawning. This is insane. You're both acting crazy. She shouted, but I could see the cracks in her confidence. Deep down, I knew she was panicking. I pulled out my phone and showed her the texts, the evidence of her betrayal laid out for her to see. This is how you've been spending your time, while you've been lying to me, I asked, my anger bubbling to the surface. While you pretended to be the perfect wife. She glanced at the messages, and I could see her processing the implications. Her bravado began to falter as she struggled to formulate a response. You don't understand, it was just fun, she stammered, desperate. You were always so busy, Jake, you didn't care about me. Adam stepped closer, his voice firm. You think cheating is justifiable because you felt neglected. You've hurt both of us, Sarah. We deserve better than your lies. Her eyes darted around the room as if searching for an escape. This isn't fair, you both don't know the whole story, she cried, desperation creeping into her voice. No, you don't get to twist this, I said, my voice rising. You made your choices, and now you have to face the consequences. You've been lying to both of us for months. We're not here to listen to your excuses. As reality settled in, I could see the tide turning. Her confident facade was crumbling, and I felt a rush of vindication. You cheated on me, Sarah. You betrayed our vows and everything we built together. You've shown me who you really are, I continued, my voice steady even as my heart raced. She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. The silence hung heavy in the air, and I could sense the weight of her realization. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she finally said, her voice wavering. It just happened. Stop, I said, cutting her off. You don't get to minimize this. You chose to betray me. You chose to deceive both of us. Jake, please, she pleaded, her eyes filling with tears. It was a mistake. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. Sorry isn't enough, Adam said, his voice filled with anger. You've drawn us both into this mess, and you can't just say sorry and expect it all to go away. With every word, I felt a sense of relief that I hadn't experienced before. I was no longer the one stuck in a cycle of doubt and betrayal. I was finally taking control, and I could see the power shifting in the room. Sarah was losing her grip on the narrative she had crafted for herself, and it felt liberating. "What do you want?" she finally asked, her voice now barely a whisper. "Honestly, I want you to understand the impact of your actions," I replied, my voice steady. "I want you to recognize how you've hurt me and Adam. This isn't just about you. It's about the lives you've disrupted. Please, let's talk about this," she begged, her composure slipping further. "I can change, I can be better." "No," I said firmly. "This isn't about fixing things. You crossed a line that can't be undone. The trust is gone, and I can't just sweep this under the rug." Adam nodded in agreement, his expression still stern. "You need to face the reality of what you've done. It's over, Sarah." The room fell silent, the weight of her choices hanging in the air. I could see her processing the finality of the situation, the harsh truth settling in. She was losing us both, and she knew it. "Are you both really going to walk away from everything?" she asked, her voice shaky. "After everything we've built?" "It's not worth rebuilding on a foundation of lies," I replied, my heart aching but resolute. "I deserve better, and so does Adam. You made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences." She dropped her gaze to the floor, tears streaming down her cheeks as the reality of her situation hit her. I felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and even a tinge of empathy. I had loved her once, and part of me still wished things could have been different. "Please," she cried, her voice breaking. "I never wanted to hurt you. Yet here we are," I said, my heart heavy. "You've hurt us both. Adam and I will move on from this. You need to reflect on your choices and what led you here." As we stood there in that room filled with lingering tension, I felt a sense of closure begin to settle in. I had fought for my dignity and confronted the truth, and now it was time to step away from the chaos. I turned to Adam, who nodded in agreement as he prepared to leave the room with me. "Let's go," I said, feeling ready to move on. As we walked out, I glanced back at Sarah, who was now sitting on the couch, her head in her hands. I knew she was facing the consequences of her actions, and it was a painful, necessary part of this process. Once outside, Adam and I stood in the cool night air, a sense of camaraderie forming between us. "Thank you for doing this," he said. "I don't think I could have confronted her alone. It feels good to finally face the truth." "Yeah, it does," I replied, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. "Now it's time for us to move forward separately." We exchanged numbers again, both knowing we could lean on each other as we navigated the fallout. I felt a mixture of hope and uncertainty, but I knew one thing for sure. I was ready to embrace this new chapter of my life, free from the lies that had entangled me for so long. To be continued. In the days following the confrontation, I felt like I was in a whirlwind of emotions. The relief of finally confronting Sarah mixed with the sadness of losing a life I thought I'd built on love and trust. I spent a lot of time reflecting on our relationship, trying to process the pain of her betrayal and the lessons I had learned. Despite the heartbreak, I knew I had made the right decision. I needed to prioritize my own well-being and find a way to heal from the wounds she had inflicted. I began to focus on myself, spending time with friends and family who supported me. I immersed myself in work, finding refuge in the routine and the goals I had set for myself. As I moved through this phase of healing, I also kept in touch with Adam. We became unlikely allies in our shared experience of betrayal, and we often exchanged messages to check in on each other. He was equally determined to move on from Sarah, and it felt good to have someone who understood the pain I was going through. Months passed, and I started to find joy in the simple things again. I took up new hobbies, started working out, and even began dating someone new, someone who made me laugh and treat me with respect. It felt refreshing, like I was stepping into a new life, free from the shadows of my past. I learned to appreciate the importance of trust and communication in a relationship, things I had taken for granted before. One evening, as I sat with my new girlfriend, Rachel, at a cozy restaurant, I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. I had come so far since that fateful night when I had confronted Sarah. I had rebuilt my life piece by piece, and now I was in a place where I could truly be happy again. Rachel was kind, honest, and treated me with the respect I had longed for, Just as I was lost in thought, my phone buzzed with a familiar name. Adam had sent me a message. "Hey, I just wanted to check in. How are you doing?" I smiled and quickly typed back, "Doing well, actually. Just enjoying time with someone special." He responded almost instantly. "That's great to hear, man. You deserve it after everything. I've been doing well too, just focusing on myself and moving forward." I felt a sense of camaraderie and relief wash over me. We had both come out of a tough situation, but we were finding our paths again. I hoped Sarah realized the damage she had done, but that was her journey to navigate, not mine. As I wrapped up dinner with Rachel that night, I felt the weight of the past lift off my shoulders. I had faced the storm, and now I was ready to embrace the sunshine. I realized that the pain of betrayal had taught me invaluable lessons about love, trust, and self-worth. I would never allow myself to be treated poorly or to ignore the signs again. Driving home, I reflected on everything I had learned. Trust is the foundation of any relationship, and without it, there's nothing. I had learned to listen to my instincts and to stand up for myself, no matter how difficult the situation might be. I knew that heartbreak could be a catalyst for growth, and I had emerged stronger and wiser. As I drifted off to sleep that night, I felt a sense of peace enveloping me. I had survived the hardest chapter of my life, and now I was ready for whatever came next. Life had a way of surprising us, and I was ready to embrace it all, the good, the bad, and everything in between. Every experience shapes us, and while I would carry the scars of betrayal, they would serve as reminders of my strength and resilience. I had learned that I could overcome darkness and emerge with a newfound sense of hope and determination. The future was bright, and I was ready to step into it with open arms. And as for Sarah, I hoped she would take the time to reflect on her choices and perhaps find a way to grow from the experience as well. But my path was clear, and I was no longer tied to her journey. I was free, and I was ready to live my life fully, unburdened by the weight of betrayal. With that thought, I closed my eyes, ready to embrace the dawn of a new day.